He's very quick. He won't. Not like the 15 meters throw you off.
I'll go quick.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
He didn't say it.
Well, it's only 4 minutes after.
11:45. Okay. I don't think there's not a direct conflict. Okay. Not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet. I mean, maybe in the future, hopefully.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's all. Who knows what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Fall out there or something?
He did fall out there.
Hey, I'm Rick Lee.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, I thought he was following me up the steps when I came up. Yeah.
Jacob can't do that. Jacob can't do that.
Well, he went after the mayor because he's not. You have to know what to say.
Oh, why? Hello?
Yes. I state your name.
So I swear.
Swear to follow the Constitution of the State of Indiana and the United States of America. Amen. Yeah. Well, it's kind of weird because since we're kind of appointed, it used to be they had like special terms or limit. And now they approve us every year. So we have to be sworn back in every year. Now, the weird thing is, it's supposed to be done by the 10th of the month or something like that. So it's like, yeah.
We're only
There he
15,
is. All right.
we're 15 days late.
All right. It's 11:07. We will call this meeting to order. Put the mayor back so I assume he's prepared to do oath of offices. So first we will swear everybody in. We welcome Rick Lee. He's our new school board member representative. Takes Matt Llewellyn's place. You got big shoes to fill, Rick.
I know.
All right. Gary, do you want to swear us in?
All right.
You stand.
Right hand. All of us. I state your name.
I,
Do solemnly swear
Solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
Constitution of the State of Indiana.
and I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
discharge my duties
duties
as a member of the Logansport Redevelopment Commission
as a member of the
Logansport Redevelopment Commission.
of the City of Logansport, Indiana,
the City of Logansport, Indiana,
according to law,
According to law.
that's my ability.
That's
best of
my
my
ability.
ability.
So help me God.
All right, next thing on the agenda is the election of officers. We basically have the same slate of officers suggested as of last year. To Mike McClure, President, John Michael Price, Vice President, Suzanne Choka, Secretary. So we need if anybody'd like to put a different name in, now's that time. If there are no changes, is there a motion to accept the slate of officers?
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there a second? Harry seconds. I love life. Cricket. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by a sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. We also have some appointments to be made. We have the school representative, Rick Lee, comes from the Lewis Cass School District. Rick, do you want to give a little information about yourself, or?
Well, I'm a lifelong resident of Southern Cass County. I sat on the the Walton Town Council for 2 terms. Then the town hired me. I run the utilities, the water and the sewer, and then I was elected to 2 terms. I'm on my 2nd term at Lewis Cass. So basically lived here my whole life and love seeing what's happening in Logansport. Like to see it keep moving in a positive direction. So.
Thank you. We also are appointing as our third-party financial secretary Dwayne Olam for his 2nd term with us. Is that or 3rd? I don't know what it is. He's been here for a while. He does a great job. I told Rick this morning, I said that the minutes that Dwayne does could be 15 or 16 pages long, but if you can't make a meeting, you can tell exactly what happened for the entire meeting. Okay, next on the agenda is the consent agenda. And that's the only item in that consent agenda is the December 14th, 2022 meeting minutes. This is something we discussed in the past as to how do we handle if people go off our board and need to have certain people available. I think we've got our legal counsel here that said we could do a consent agenda, and that way if we vote this in and someone's not here, we don't have to have those exact same people back to get things agreed upon. Correct? Okay. All right. So I guess we accept the consent agenda. If at this time when you do this stuff, if anybody's got any questions or comments, we're going to approve it. You can still do it like we do previously and say, I'd like to ask a question about something that's in the minutes or something's missing or my name's misspelled or whatever. So anyway, any discussion on the December minutes? All right. All those in favor signify by saying of aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. All right, next we've got financial report stuff. We are at an interesting crossroad right now. So the financial information today is from December of 2022. From 2023, a number of things are going to change. We've got the consolidation of the East End and the Gateway District. And so that'll be something new, basically just combining those numbers together. It actually has been something that they made a motion on many years ago, and we've kind of kept it separate, but even when we file our stuff to the state, it's been consolidated for probably, 6 years or something like that, 10 years. I can't remember what administration did that. So anyway, that's there. We also are adding the Salai property, which is the hotel. It'll have its own TIF district. There'll be the Junction, which is the mall, will have its own TIF district. We have the Lexington residential TIF district will be coming on board. There is an active bond there, so we'll have some financial numbers that show the bond. And Dwayne, help me. There are going to be 4 checking accounts tied to that.
Right, there's 4 accounts through the bond that are going to be present, and then there are the new bonds that you had listed with the TIF for the Lexington Village, the Mall, Junction, the hotel, and then the consolidated are the 4. Although the consolidated is simply removing the Gateway and the East End and combining them into one. So you're losing 2 and gaining a bunch.
Yeah. Okay. So that's that. We'll also probably have some sort of a financial balance sheet that shows our assets, which it's never our intention to hold properties forever, but we sometimes are holding properties for short periods of time and then moving into an economic development project. So we need to somehow keep track of that. So we'll have some kind of a sheet that'll show what we've got on the books. Some things were given to us, so I suppose we should show those things too. They may not have any value. We didn't purchase some things, we were given those things. So we'll figure that out too. So next month we'll hopefully, if I can not have any sleeping hours, I should be able to put together a new version of this thing and have that put together for next meeting. Okay, so now we will approve the current financials as we see them. I'll make a motion we accept the December 2023. Did I say something? No. Financials. Is there a second?
22.
Oh, 22, sorry. My mind's already jello. Maybe you should do those things for me.
No.
Okay, is any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by the sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. There also is in this packet the proposed budget for 2023. I don't see any needs for major changes, but it's something that we hadn't passed it to you guys yet, so we give some time to digest that, but this is the format we'll have. What we'll do after this is, if we like this, we'll put this into the other spreadsheet that ties it to the stuff so you can see once we authorize stuff from different funds, how it plays out or whatever. So it's just that multicolored sheet that's got, and that is the budget numbers. We've actually added also, there's a new, that we're going to remove, there's a maintenance fund in the budget. We haven't had the maintenance fund for a while because it's not our role to do maintenance on trees and things like that. So we took that off last year, but it was on the budget format, so it's in there. And there's some stuff about signage and stuff too. So normally, Andy's here, so I gotta be careful what I say. No. It's not our role to fix things. It's our role to buy things and develop things and sewers and sidewalks and that kind of stuff. We can buy a tree, we're just not going to maintain it from there on out. There's also a new fund for training in schools, and you'll see that later in our conversations. That's been added to the budget also. So that's just for information purposes. After that, we've got the quarterly property tax appeals from the county, or from the county assessor, and that's just basically for Rick's case. We get these quarterly. This kind of tells us which of our properties. There's a column called TIF, and you'll see check marks. Those are cases where the property tax statements come out. The owner of the property has disputed it in some way. Normally, by the time we get this quarterly report, it has been, you'll see where it says settled or withdrawn or whatever. So usually when we get the report, it's already been there's rarely anything outstanding when we get this quarterly report. So that's basically for your information purposes, and required they give us that by law. All right, now to the fun stuff. We've got Baker Tilly with us this morning for our Andy presentation. This is Andy Mauser. He is our advisor, confidant, friend, and all that, and does a wonderful job.
Thank you, Mike.
Making us legal.
Thank you, and thanks for having us here again.
Oh, I'm sorry. We've got paper copies up here. Anybody wants a paper copy of what's on the presentation? They're up here.
Thank you, Dwayne.
It's in there. We weren't sure if we had a Zoom today or whether we could be on. We weren't sure if we would be doing this, so I thought, well, we'd have it that's available in case he was on the screen and not on the thing. All right, sorry, Andy, go ahead.
No, thanks for the introduction, Mike, and thanks for having us. I'll try to be as quick as possible. This is an annual presentation. I know those of you who have been on the Redevelopment Commission for a few years. Remember, a number of years ago, the state put in a new requirement that each year you have to hold a public meeting and go through the budget, the long-term plan, and any impact of your TIF areas. So this is kind of our attempt to meet those requirements, but then also kind of give you a good reference document that you can, utilize throughout the year. I'll try to run through it quickly. This is, as Mike mentioned, you've got a lot going on in the last year. So I think what used to be about a 15 to 20 slide presentation is now a 32 slide presentation. So I will, you've got a lengthy agenda, so I will try to kind of go through it quickly. Just contact info on the first couple pages. Again, I'm Andy Mauser with Baker Tilly. Feel free to reach out if you ever have any questions. That's what we're here for. I know TIF, sometimes you can run into unique situations or questions, so don't hesitate to give me a call or shoot me an email. First couple slides, just kind of general information about TIF that we've shared in the past. Really the goal of a TIF area is kind of threefold. One is to protect the base assessed value within that area, represented by the blue box here. And then as your areas grow and develop, the green, that incremental growth is what you'll capture in TIF dollars. And then the goal of TIF areas is to build that tax base and then eventually get that back from being captured as TIF to the overlapping taxing units. As we look now, you've got a number of TIF areas, as we talk about the mall and hotel, Lexington Village, that are on this very end of the graph, brand new areas you've not started to collect, but, we anticipate growth occurring there. And you've got a number of areas, your downtown area, your airport area are kind of somewhere in this range where they've been outstanding for, 10, 15, 20 years and are now starting to get close to that end of their life. And that will have good impacts on all the overlapping taxing units, as that's, millions of dollars of assessed value that will eventually be returned to the tax base. Just a couple of things we'll kind of talk through. As a redevelopment commission, you have the ability to set up a TIF area anywhere within what's known as the redevelopment district. The redevelopment district has the same boundaries as the city, so essentially you can set up TIF areas anywhere within the city. And then within the city, you're able to set up an economic development area, which is essentially where you can spend dollars. And then within each economic development area, you can set up what are known as allocation areas, and that's where you actually collect the dollars from. A lot of your TIF areas, those are one and the same, the EDA and the allocation area. Places like the consolidated, you've got the original East End, the original Gateway, you've got the expansion, so you actually have multiple allocation areas. And that just starts to be important when we look at the expiration of your TIF areas. All those individual pieces maintain kind of their own lifespans. Terms, kind of lifespans of TIF areas. Another important thing, you don't have any pre-1995 TIF areas. Those originally were unlimited. You don't have any of those to worry about. All your TIF areas fall within the second and third categories. So you have areas that were set up between 1995 and 2008. Those all have their own 30-year lives. And then you've got some post-2008 areas that all have 25-year lives. So I'll just kind of quickly talk through your areas, give a little bit of background, history, kind of where we are currently, and then where we expect those areas to go in the future. So I'll start with the consolidated East End Gateway. As Mike mentioned, I know this is one that's been formally consolidated a number of years ago. I know you're now taking action to kind of combine those funds. So this area really has 3 separate allocation areas that make it up. The original Gateway area was set up in 2007. It'll expire in 2037 with its 30-year life. The original East End area was set up in 2008. It'll expire in 2038. And then in 2014, those 2 areas were expanded and consolidated. And that portion, kind of the area where they were consolidated through, will expire in 2039. This area has been pretty consistent. It is one we do anticipate some pretty large growth for 2023. For 2022, our estimate was about $385,000. You collected right around $343,000, so it was a little bit low this year, but in the past few years, it's been right around 100% collections. I think in 2021, you were right at 99%. So we'll keep an eye on that area. You may have, there may have been some delinquencies, things like that, that may come in with your distribution this year. But we do anticipate a pretty big jump there, from a little under $400,000 to a little under $700,000. And that's really, there's not necessarily one specific thing I could point to. You've had a number of new developments in the last few years that have finally been built, assessed, starting to hit the tax rolls. Retail, various retail developments, things like that. I know you've had a number of apartment buildings that I think were kind of reassessed. I think apartment reassessments had kind of lagged, as rents and things have gone up, and we've seen that in a number of communities. You've also had deductions that have gone away, things like abatements, stuff like that. So this one, like I said, is we do anticipate a pretty big jump for 2023. And within that, not only have we seen growth within your TIF areas, this area especially, but 2023 was kind of unique because actually within the city itself, your tax base has increased about 10%. You've got growth within your areas, and you've also got growth outside your areas. City tax base grew from about $409 million to $451 million. For each area, we've kind of shown a cash flow kind of based on your preliminary budget information. Again, estimating about a little under $700,000 this year. We will kind of keep an eye on those estimates as well. As I mentioned, this year is a bit unique because of the big swings we've seen in assessed value. As assessed values go up, tax rates tend to come down, and that could certainly affect your TIF collections this year. I know for Logansport, Eel Township, your 2022 tax rate was about $5.83. This year, it's dropped all the way to $5.09, which is good. That'll reduce circuit breaker losses that the city, the schools, those units are seeing, but it could also bring your TIF down a little bit. So within those estimates, we've tried to build in, a bit of an allowance for kind of those changes in tax rates. But, here showing the various expenditures kind of anticipated for this area, and you still maintain a healthy balance within that area, about $700,000. For each area too, we've also wanted to illustrate, with TIF, you can use those dollars for debt obligations, which you do have now with the Lexington Village bonds. But then also, as you've done in the past, you can continue to use TIF on a pay-as-you-go basis. So, just collect those dollars through the year and spend kind of out of pocket on projects. So for each area, and I don't know, Mike, if you've got anything you want to add on these slides, but really just kind of projects you've identified that'll be, things you'll look to spend TIF dollars on here in the next year or so.
Yeah. That's the stuff that you see on our financial report says pending. So the stuff that we've actually voted for, we've got a few things where like the facade program, that the business hasn't done it yet, so it sits out there until they get the project completed. So there's those kind of things.
So any questions on the consolidated area? Like I said, that's one of your bigger areas, and we do anticipate a pretty big jump next year. Your airport area, I know, has also been a very healthy TIF area. This one just has one component to it. So it was set up in 2000. Originally was limited to a 10-year life. It was then extended to a 20-year life. And then I know those of you that were on the Redevelopment Commission a couple of years ago, we had noticed that was not extended out to its full allowable 30 years. So to give you that flexibility, we did go back in 2021 and extend it out to a full 30 years. This area has been very consistent, collected about 102% in 2021, 107%, right around $300 or $300,000 in 2022. So actually a little bit more than what we estimated last year. And then this year we do anticipate just a little drop in there. I think there was maybe a new abatement granted out there that had reduced value slightly, but still very consistent with where that area has been in the past. Again, budget there, and I know this is an area you've looked to build up some additional balances potentially this year. This is an area that you've probably had more collections than needs in the past. So you've got some ability to put these dollars to work. You maintain a pretty healthy balance in that area of about $2.3 million.
Hey, Andy.
Yeah.
On this one, in our minutes from there was a question about Matt had questioned the 50% pass through, and it says here stating that next year should not be a 50% pass through. I can't provide any more context than that, but is there anything there you can just provide as information on maybe even the history of that, the 50% pass through, and how it works or doesn't work going forward?
Yeah, so that's an annual determination that the Redevelopment Commission can make, either to capture everything you're eligible to capture or to pass through assessed value. I know another item on your agenda today is potentially partnering with the schools to assist with projects. I know pass through is a way to try to lessen the impact of TIF on the overlapping units. And in the past, the Redevelopment Commission had done that. You would, I think, pass through in the consolidated in the airport area, you'd pass through 50%, and that had kind of been phased out in both areas. What we see a lot of times is by passing through, you pass through assessed value. By capturing, you capture actual dollars. So a lot of times the impact when you pass through is not nearly a dollar for dollar as if you actually capture. So, a lot of times we recommend if you are looking to assist schools or, the other units, sometimes doing what you're, considering today and actually kind of directly using those dollars on projects that are eligible tends to be a better kind of bang for your buck with TIF. So
It's quite a change when the pass-through was probably 4 years ago or so when we first started it, and we were seeing our funds grow and grow and grow. We weren't spending anything because there were no requests for anything. So it's kind of at the time also, I describe it now as we're drinking out of a fire hose. We have so many requests and so much stuff. which is a good thing, because it means the economic flow of the community is really going at full speed. But just for everybody's history, there was a time when we thought, we felt, it wasn't necessarily we feel guilty, but it was a waste of money to sit there and bank it and have no projects going on. So, you know, had we known now that what was coming, we might have wanted to bank it. But anyway, so that came off. We had it. One of them came off, like, I think 2 years ago, and then one came off last year because there was some paperwork snafus or whatever. So we should be back to 100% right now with us.
Again, just projects there, and I know, you know, as I mentioned, this is an area you've got some larger balances, but at the same time, I know you've got some potential larger expenditures, things you'd like to do with that money as well. This is certainly a TIF area you should be able to kind of put to use for you here in the next couple of years. Your third TIF area, your downtown Logan's Landing area, kind of similar to the airport. This was set up in 2001 as well. It was originally limited to 10 years, then expanded to 20 years, then expanded to 30 years. So it is stretched out to its full maximum life through 2031. It was right around 100% collections. We estimated 265 last year, and you were just under that, so right around 100%. And you have had some growth in the downtown as well, kind of a combination of smaller developments, increases in assessed value, some deductions rolling off, things like that. So we do expect it to increase a bit in 2023 as well. That one's maybe kind of the opposite of your airport, where you've had, you know, at the airport you've had more collections necessarily than you've had projects. I know in the downtown with a lot of the things you've done with the facade program, your building program, you know, you've tended to have more expenditures in the downtown. So you've certainly got some balances, but also some needs there as well. And then outlined kind of various projects. I know it looks like on your agenda later today's, you know, considering the 6th Street lighting improvements, kind of one of the larger projects on that list. And as Mike mentioned, obviously with your facade program and other programs, you've got some ongoing expenditures there as well. So that really covers the areas we've covered in previous years. This year we're going to throw a few more at you. The first one is the Salai TIF area. That is for the hotel project out on the east end. This area, and I'll go through the Salai and then the Junction kind of back to back. These areas are very similar. They both actually set up at the same time. They both have bonds in place, but very similar bond structures. So this area was set up in 2021. It has a 25-year life from the bonds that were issued in February of last year. I know the hotel looks like now open and fully complete, so that should start to hit, you know, the assessment rolls this year, start paying taxes at full level, hopefully next year. But this year there was some, you know, with just the preliminary work that they had done out there, some growth there, so you should get about $12,000, which I know should help with some of the kind of very preliminary administrative costs of the TIF area. But then going forward, you know, we anticipate once the hotel is fully assessed that should grow to hopefully around $190,000 per year. As I mentioned, you do have bonds outstanding for that area. These bonds are unique in that they were purchased by the developer themselves. They were not purchased by a bank or other third party, so all risk really remains with the developer. And the Redevelopment Commission is not responsible for any repayment on those, except for the fact that you did pledge 75% generated from that TIF area. So going forward, and those bonds will be outstanding through 2042, but you know, each semi-annual distribution that you get as the Redevelopment Commission, you'll pay the lesser of the bond payment or 75% of what you receive. And if that 75% doesn't fully cover the bond payment, any shortfall is fully the responsibility of the developer. So you're not on the hook for anything above that. The Junction TIF area works much the same. It was actually set up at the exact same time, January of 2021. Those bonds did not officially close until November of last year, so it'll expire November of 2047. Again, it started to see some increases, I think, with some of the initial work that was done out there at the mall. You'll collect about $16,000 this year, but kind of depending on the full build out, I know they've got, some additional tenants that have opened out there since then, but, kind of depending on the build out, that could grow certainly to, the $200,000 to $300,000 range. You do also have bonds outstanding there, but these are, essentially the exact same structure as the mall. There's no obligation for the Redevelopment Commission or the city to make up any difference. And you will simply pay 75% of what's generated from that project through the 25-year life. So it, preserves that 25% for the Redevelopment Commission for other projects. And then it also, because these are 20-year bonds, it also gives you kind of that 5 years on the back end of the TIF area to either collect it or pass through or, do other things with those TIF dollars.
On those two, just want to recognize Baker Tilly and Bill Cuppy carried all the water on this thing, but it really worked out smoother than I expected it to for as much money was involved, and turned out to be, I think, a good deal it made the projects work. But to do these kind of projects, it takes a lot of dotting I's and crossing T's, and Bill seems to have a doctorate degree in which council you go to first and second and third and fourth and back to the other council and then get back here. So appreciate what both of you guys did on these projects.
Absolutely, and we greatly appreciate Bill's, work getting those projects set up, and had to be a part of kind of getting the financing piece in place, but, appreciate all his work on the front end. That's really kind of transformed that area, so.
It's nice.
The last one, another new area. This one's unique for a couple of reasons. This is your Lexington Village area. It is your first and only, as of now, residential TIF area, so you'll actually capture single-family residential growth within that area. And then you do have bonds outstanding there that are a bit different than the bonds for the hotel and mall areas. So this area was set up last year in 2022. It'll expire in 2047. And depending on kind of the full build-out, depending on the timing of when homes are constructed, depending on pricing on, where those homes will end up being sold at, we're hopeful, and I think this is hopefully a more conservative estimate, that TIF will increase to hopefully about $125,000 once fully built out. You do have bonds outstanding there. These are bonds issued in the amount of about $2.2 million to assist with the drainage and other infrastructure to kind of get the site ready for a developer to come in and begin building homes. And these bonds ultimately were sold to the open bond market, so there is a backing of the city and Redevelopment Commission on those. However, we've also structured them where you've got quite a bit of flexibility. We've set aside bond proceeds for, I think it's your first 6 payments. For the next several years, you'll not have any payments that you'll need to make from TIF. That allows the area to develop, get those homes built, and start generating. And then once it is built, you'll have the ability to start using that Lexington Village TIF when it comes in. And then we've also given you the flexibility to use either your consolidated airport and then the kind of that 25% piece we've left from your Salai and Junction areas as well. So, we're hopeful that the Lexington Village TIF will cover a good portion of the bond payments, but certainly there is, a possibility that you may need to tap into some of those other areas. But at the same time, I think there's certainly a hope and a belief that new home development out there, as well as what's going on with the mall and hotel, will spur some additional growth, and you'll have more dollars to work with as well. So the last piece, I won't go through these slides in a lot of detail. There's a lot of information here. This is similar to what we've showed you in the past. We've taken a look at really all 4 taxing districts that you capture TIF in. So Logansport Eel Township, Logansport Township, Logansport Washington Township, and then the portion of Logansport Washington within Lewis Cass schools. And then we've looked at kind of all the different portions of your TIF areas that you capture and what would happen if we, eliminated your TIF areas today. So between your existing consolidated downtown and airport areas, you capture about $1.3 million in annual TIF. It's important to note that, as I mentioned earlier, you capture dollars. If you were to give these areas up, you would pass through assessed value and not dollars. All these units that you'll see here, the county, the township, the city itself, the schools, the library, the Port Authority, all of those units for property taxes are constrained by what's known as maximum levy. So that's really a state controlled mechanism that they're only able to levy a certain amount in any given year. So while you capture, that $1.3 million, if you were to give that up, you actually wouldn't see those units, their actual tax collections go up by $1.3 million. In fact, the direct impact's only about $14,000, which would come through a couple of different funds that the county and airport authority have. The majority of the impact you would actually see would be tax rates coming down. So your tax rates currently are about $5.09 in this taxing district. If you pass through all that assessed value, that's going to bring it down to about $4.70. That may help with circuit breaker. I know that the city, the schools, do see a lot of circuit breaker impact. Bringing those tax rates down may help with that, but at the same time, bringing it down, from $5.09 to $4.80 may not make a huge impact. And really, with the schools being the city being the largest portion of the tax rate, the city would see the largest portion of that circuit breaker change. Really TIF for you is a good tool to, put in infrastructure, drive economic development, encourage new growth. And, from this perspective, I think this really helps kind of show that TIF is the most efficient tool for the city itself to continue to leverage new growth that's coming in and continue that forward. So again, just kind of wanted to show, the property tax system in Indiana is pretty complex. So kind of as we look at the impact of your TIF areas, it can be difficult to quantify, but, I think it really helps show the value of TIF as a tool to drive economic development. Not really, really within Logansport, but within the entire county as well. So with that, that's really kind of what I wanted to cover, but certainly glad to answer any questions you might have as well.
Wonderful as usual.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks, Andy. I was telling Rick this morning, talking about the stuff with the school. We have a school representative on our board because after the city, they're the largest supplier or loser of tax dollars or whatever. And when I was first on the board, the amount of the TIF districts were much shorter. So you kind of told the school, hey, we're going to build this up, and then we'll hand it back to you again. And now it's got to be 35 years. You've got 7 or 8 mayors could potentially be in there during that time. So really where the schools get a lot of their money is off of head count money. So that really kind of plays out to that, to where our role in a lot of ways is we need to always be cognizant to the fact that we want to bring either retain people in town, so you don't want to lose student counts, or you want to bring new people to town. And both those will benefit our schools. So I always, when I had Rick's position, I always kind of used to think about that. Is this going to help, keep people in town or bring people to town? And again, hopefully they have children and then they would come to our schools. So that's that. Okay, next on the agenda is a presentation with from the Century Career Center and Bill Cuppy. We got Bill Cuppy and Matt Lang representing the school. And they're going to pitch something real quick.
First, before we start,
Oh, yeah, just some copies here. His are nicer.
where are these made from?
This
We
is-
have them, we have them in our packet, yeah.
Thanks.
I just want to lay a little bit of the foundation of why we're here and then let Matt take over. Sent it via email to Mike, I think it got out, but there is an Indiana code, 36-7-25-7. It's been out there quite a while. We just never have tapped it, requested it. But basically, it's eligible entities can be partnered with TIF for educational and training programs. And they state that eligible entity means a group that their principal function includes education programs and work training programs. So to me, the Century Career Center and Logansport is a great example of how that can be utilized. It also goes on to talk about how much you can spend if you do approve things. The Indiana Code states that you can disperse up to 15% of the revenues we got to get off balances for a minute. You know, we focus a lot on balances when we approve things and percentages, but this would be up to 15% of revenues can be used for these work-based workforce development initiatives that we have. I have expressed this in the past to some prior administrations in the Career Center. It just never took off. I mentioned it to Matt Lang, and he wanted to know when's the fastest we can come in. So it was good to see the initiative and the passion behind it, and I think you'll see that today. But when he heard it and looked around the Career Center, and I've gone through it a lot, you see a lot of outdated things. You see things that equipment, tools, machines that industry does not use anymore. So a lot of times they're training people on things that just don't really they're not being used anymore. So where are we getting with that? Full transparency, I am on the Logansport School Board, and I have been for several years. And the main reason I went on that school board or put my name in the hat was because I wanted to see the connection of what the schools are doing and then what I do in my job as far as what industry is telling me. So you'll get schools do one thing, industry does another thing, and sometimes they don't always match up or marry. So we've been doing a lot of things that just this past year of trying to match those up better to find out what our local industry needs. And this will be a big step in that. In your proposed budget that you saw for this year, we only put in 10% and not 15% to be conservative. So throughout the different areas, you have about $151,000 that, if you choose, you can disperse to these programs that we're going to present on. I do want to mention our industrial park is Lewis Cass only district. So we got to keep that in mind. We have to make sure that Lewis Cass is fully represented in that mix. Now, they do come to the Career Center. We have a slide in here that talks about the number of credits that are obtained from Lewis Cass. We know you have a Polytech Center. My understanding is currently it's just early childhood development currently, but it could be more. I've talked to Matt Llewellyn. It'd be great if our Career Center could be an expert in this area, and you guys could be an expert in that area, and we kind of move students back and forth based on that. But nevertheless, today's request, and you'll see in the resolution if it's approved, we did not touch the industrial park. We want to make sure Rick and Lewis Cass reps can come to me and talk this out and see if they have something they want to request for Lewis Cass specific. But they are representing the Career Center. They could come to any program. There's no issues of, so it's available, it's legal, we're good. But for today's purpose, we stayed away from the industrial park. We focused on the other areas with that. So today, you're going to see what the issue is when it comes to funding our Career Center, and what the need is, and then an approach to go through the request of the monthly request, which pathway it benefits. But I will turn it over now to Mr. Matt.
Wow, I must feel like I don't need to talk now. First of all, I want to say, hey, any questions at any time, please feel free to ask. I'm very proud of this place. I'm not a career teacher. I come from industry. I'm from the water industry, actually. This means a lot to me. And I think we have a hidden gem in Logansport, or actually in Cass County, Alaska, all the counties we serve in the Career Center. I think we do an excellent job of preparing students for their future endeavors. Here's the problem, is the money we have allocated to update equipment is not enough, to be frank with you. So as you look through this pamphlet, it's probably better to look through the pamphlet, just how it's drawn up. We put together a 5-year kind of capital expenditure plan for the Career Center to try to update our equipment to make it more current, more ready for industry. And this will help us be able to move through the equipment a little bit quicker. We were speaking about this morning. If the money we had from our Perkins dollars, which is where we'll get the funding, I'll talk about that in a minute, it would take us probably about 10 or 12 years to go through the equipment, just a small portion of it. And then by the time we get through it, it's going to be outdated again. So it's really important that we get some extra funds to help us move through. So on page 2, we'll just talk about a little bit of the mission and the vision. That this is a school corporation, because we do fall under Logansport Community School Corporation, even though we're a separate school ourselves. So a little bit of that. So if you turn to page 3, I went through the employment sectors in Logansport that we service directly at the Career Center. Total employment 14,018 as of 2021. Broke that down through manufacturing, which is a large employer. We know about that in Cass County. And we do service that in machine trades, welding. We have multiple programs that service that program. So as you can see, the 8 different categories that, main categories, not all the categories, but 8 main categories that we service in Logansport and Cass County. If you flip over to the next page, Bill, I'm going through this quick. And then we can look at credits. So we have 7 schools that we service. You know, so they're not all in Cass County. Logansport being our biggest, we call those sending schools. So they send their students to us. Lewis Cass, and these are credits per year, so 1 credit per semester. So basically you could break that down. If a student comes in, that's 1 credit per class, per semester, excuse me. So if a student were to come to Logansport and obtain, so if we look at, let's say we look at Caston, we're looking at basically 60 students or 60 classes. Usually with a sending school, except Logansport, they spend 2 hours with us. So you could cut that in half, and that would be 30 students that we service from Cass and Lewis Cass, kind of the same way. And then you can see how the breakdown is in the numbers. And that fluctuates over the course of the year, of course, and it also fluctuates from year to year. Yeah, so Logansport being the main service. Okay, so when we looked at this, we have a few immediate needs, and for our immediate needs, we went to the machine trade industry. I broke down a plan. It's basically 8 installments over the course of the first year. Of course, that wouldn't be every month, but looking at different stuff that we could do to improve our program right off the bat, so to speak. So in January, machine trades, and this will be at the back. We have 4 lathes in our program. We have 3 CNC machines. We have about 15 pieces of equipment altogether. We have 1 engine lathe that I think it was brought over from the old school. It's very old, so the replacement of that would be beneficial. So that's what we're looking at in January. And then we move over to construction trades. We are partnering with Steinberger and, on a project, which we need to pour some concrete to add an additional building in the back of our facility. So what Matt's doing with Steinberger is he's donating a building for us to use, a steel building, because in our talks, Bill and I's talks with Matt is we don't do any steel construction in our construction trades program. Well, that's a problem, right? We're not keeping people in our community if they don't know steel construction, because that's what Steinberger does. So Matt was gracious enough to partner with us to donate a steel building that we can erect and dismantle year after year. So our students can learn the basics of steel construction, so they'll be more apt to work or know the knowledge that it takes to erect a steel building. So,
Real quick on that, this kind of sets the foundation that the construction pathway has kind of been our beta test of what we plan to do on all these pathways with Matt, myself. So we pulled in Shepler and Steinberger and said, why aren't you hiring them? Yeah, basic question, why not? And there were a lot of standards that weren't being taught currently. There's a curriculum they have to teach, but now they are importing 20 to 25 things that Shepler and Steinberger won on day 1, how to read a tape measure and whatever. And they're implementing that into their curriculum. With that, they were trying to build excitement, and we used to build houses. It took 2 years, and the student would start it, and they'd never finish it. It was the next class. Now it's all in one calendar year where they can build these steel structures. They can build a house inside the Career Center, smaller house, with the help of Shepler and Steinberger. They're going to come in for safety training, like Patrick Long's going to do like what they see in their industry as training. And then we look around and what our point to this, look around and there's tools that they're using that Steinberger went to complete cordless tools X number of years ago. We're not doing that. They're doing some donations, but eventually there's funding issues. And we'll get to that, the pathways, but that's kind of what we're doing with everything, just to kind of give you a foundation. We're not just shooting from the hip here. We have a plan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And then we moved to April. Well, when Bill talks about there's a need for equipment, I just went through this morning. We got basically 25 stations, welding stations. Welding, by the way, our largest program by far, which is great. We send a lot of students to Dilling, great partnership with Dilling, but we had 6 or 7 of them that were broke. They're just non-functioning. So went through there, and that's why April we're looking at Miller Welders. And then a program that we started a couple years ago, and it's taken off quite considerably, is our ag program, which she would like to get into more precision farming. So with precision farming, the need for drones and equipment in that area. Move back over to machine trades, trying to build that up, because it's by far with the equipment, that's our largest expenditure. And the equipment is frankly getting old. So some surface grinders, some milling machines, so we can update the process there in machine trades. And then another program that we have that's probably our second largest program is our culinary program. And we would like to renovate that area. We're working in an area now that, if you remember home ec class when you're in school with the old equipment, the manila stoves and something you might find in your grandma's house, that's what it looks like. So we're trying to teach students how to move into the culinary industry with equipment that's probably 40 years old. So a little bit of revitalization in there, start to work in there. Hopefully we can partner with the school on that. And then back to the machine trades and then construction trades. Hopefully in September, the August, September date, we'll be ready to erect a steel building for the first time. So some proposed cost associated with that. Also, the purchase of another grinder. And then October, as it is the biggest area for need, milling machine. And then another program that we started a couple years ago because the need across the state was a computer science program. And we're using, frankly, old machines again. And if you know anything about computer science, it's got to be updated quite frequently. We just spent $40,000, upwards, it was about $45,000 on our graphic design program, going through PCs and the monitors and all the equipment that's needed in there. So the computer science wing would be next with updating the computers and the monitors. So that's our first year plan. And then I went into our long-term plan just to kind of move through those back to ag. And you can see in criminal justice, a fuming chamber for fingerprints. It's something we don't have. We have some neat stuff in there, but we're not able to teach anything remotely to do with that. So that would be nice. And we have a healthcare program, and to replace some of the old hospital beds. I always laugh when I go in there. They're not very good nurses because the people are still dead every time I walk in there. But they're starting to, the beds are very old. We're starting to need some more equipment in that area. And then as we kind of move back through the areas and jump around, we have a photography area, if you see Spring is 26, to replace their computers and monitors. Very important. They run Photoshop on those. It's very important to have up-to-date digital cameras and all the things you'll need to run a photography program. But yeah, as you see, I call them hands-on jobs. We consider the I-wing. So when you see on the fall of 26, the I-wing is that group. So that would be machine trades, welding, construction trades. Then we have auto body and auto service. We have a compressor that sits initially probably a bad design. It sits on top of one of our classrooms. It's very, very noisy, causes a lot of issues. And as you probably would know, is they're using a lot of air, so it's on quite a bit of time and causing a disturbance. So just like something like that to revitalize that or to replace it. If we move over to page 8, kind of go through the budgeted items for these. January, which is on the back page, is the engine phase, 24,449, and then some estimated costs for February. What would be 20,000, and then as you move down on, totals up to about 186.65 for the first year is what we're looking at. And then if you turn over to page 9, this is how we plan to help with that. We get what's called Perkins funding. Most of our equipment is bought through this funding. It's not something everyone gets, but Perkins funding moves up and down. And if you look at it, the funding initially is $117,220. That's what we get through this Perkins fund for the year. Here's the problem. A small portion of it, 48% of it, is all we can use for equipment. Okay, so what we find is, just like last year, when we spent upwards of $40,000 on PCs for our graphic design program, there's not much to work around in some of the other programs that we need to work to. And this becomes a problem, right? Because that $40,000, or in this case, $50,000, $57,000, that may be buy one piece of equipment in one area. But as we start rolling over, that's not that much. And we're way behind in what we can do and how we are compared to the industry. And when Bill and I talked about this was a good partnership for us to try to get ourselves back where we need to be. So we're putting out students with the right equipment, working in the right equipment that are going to see they can walk right into industry, and that's what they're going to be working on. And that's the whole plan and goal for this improvement project. Last page. Yeah.
What drives that Perkins funding dollar amount, like the 117,220? Is that a request from you? Is it based on number of students? What's it based on, a pot of funds that's just divvied up across the state? What is that?
All those above. We don't request it, but it's federal funding, and it changes every year, student-based usually. But from year to year, honestly, we don't, it just fluctuates a little bit, but we don't know exactly what it's going to be. Yeah.
What other grant, do you get any other grants for any of your other equipment? Do you?
We can apply for grants, and we just applied for a grant to revitalize our computer science department, which unfortunately it didn't get approved. So we can apply for grants for that stuff.
Well, and the reason I ask is, like you said, greenhouse, and I know there at Lewis Cass, the community foundation, basically.
Absolutely.
For us. So I didn't know if that's, if you're trying to do every revenue stream out there, and I know you're trying to, there's several jobs, several hats you have to wear, but, you know.
Absolutely. No, that's part of Bob Isles, who's our director, or interim director, we'll call him that. That's his biggest part of his job, is applying for grants. Absolutely. We try to find every revenue stream there is. It's just because the budget, the Perkins budget just isn't enough. There's no way to keep current. It's impossible.
The piece that gets missed is this. So the school corporation provides facility and utilities and personnel and benefits, and the participating schools pay their fair share to that pot for us to pay those things. What gets missed is the capital improvement piece. Like our school specifically, we got to go bond things or do a geo bond to do any type of capital improvement. So that's the piece in the structure of school systems that's difficult, as you know, is to do things like this. And then they get this $100 and some thousand a year to, you walk through the career center, it's massive. And everywhere you look, there's equipment and tools and computers, and they just kind of sit there and they're aging. So that's the gist of why we're here.
Last page, page 11. This is the proposed lay that was spoken about earlier. Break down the cost. We have 3 of these currently, the same South Bend Lathe Company. would be something you would see in industry. Price, then you can break those down. Original price $22,950, and then it comes with a tool, or you have to buy a tool set. And then they give us a little bit of discount. Shipping, and then the installation costs are costs for wiring, parts that might be needed for the piece of equipment, which comes to $24,104.49.
I have a resolution amendment if we get to that point. But
Yeah, your next thing, the next page in your packet has got the details of the state, all the codes and that kind of stuff that Bill provided with us. And then after that, we've got a resolution, and I just say before we've done a lot of stuff in Logansport to bring places to town. The people side of thing is the hard part. I know that Perry, your restaurant, you had to go out of county to get a chef, you know, and so we have my observation sometimes in the schools is their number one priority is to educate students. We want them to educate people who are going to be plumbers, electricians, chefs, and that kind of stuff. And so, but oftentimes, for my industry, in the construction industry, you often see the fact that you got kids that are saying, I hate school, I want to get out of here, I want to, you know, and they think, well, how about you try welding, or how about you something with your hands or something like that. So they're doing everything they can to get kids to not quit school. And I've seen people, I'll never forget the man when Little Caesars came to town, and he had like 40 kids apply that had dropped out of school to work at Little Caesars, and he says, why should I get you when I get these kids that have got high school degrees, you know? And just in his own little thing, he just had better experience with kids that stayed in school. So the schools a lot of times are trying to find a way to get kids to stay in school. I see in our industry right now, the plumbers, the electricians, the pipe fitters, the HVAC guys, they're all getting really old. And we've kind of made, as a society, we kind of say, hey, college is a thing. You got to go be a history major or whatever. And we've, things that take blood, sweat, and tears, those kind of trades, we have, in some cases been a little bit down on. One of the dark discussions with Lexington Village is to somehow get kids that, since we're going to try to do it as a local thing, let's bust some kids in when they're young, like 6th grade, to see about construction and do that. Because some of the kids that are going in construction at the high school, they're getting ready to drop out, and they're, hey, just give us a try. Let's just give us a try. So we need to have kids that realize, Dilling and some of those folks offer programs where these kids can be making $50,000, $60,000 2 years into it in their internship program, and then they can become a pipe fitter, and they can actually go work for Chrysler or stay with Dilling. It's kind of an interesting area where, we at the schools, you want these kids to succeed, but oftentimes their parents are not aware. We have 67% free and reduced lunches in our schools, which means we have a poverty issue. And sometimes some of the byproducts of low income are desperation, and you don't know the opportunities are there. All these kids have a chance to break out of that cycle of poverty in their family. These kind of programs will help to do that, quite honestly. Okay, so we've got this resolution. In disclosure, before we do this, I am currently the president of the Logansport School Board. I have a son that is a chemistry teacher at the high school. It's always a debate as to whether it's a conflict of interest or not. I've decided in this case I don't think it is, because we have so many sending schools. This is about the Career Center and the 7 schools that they serve. I don't see any financial connection between me, the school corporation, and usually there's a case where we have people on our school board that have like a spouse that's a teacher, and you're working on teachers' wages, and so that's a conflict. I don't see that, so I'm not gonna recuse myself from this vote. If anybody feels I should, I'm willing to step out. We got enough people to still pass it without me. But anyway, currently that's what it is. Bill, you want to talk about the resolution, or you want me just to?
Well, the amendment would be section 1, when we have the not to exceed $24,104.49 to purchase the engine lathe at South Bend. That would need to read not to exceed $23,104.49. And the reason the installation cost that's listed there, that's the guesstimate on the parts and supplies to install it, but Logansport schools are doing the labor of that. So technically, it'd be 23,104.49 for the purchase to the South Bend lathe, and then an amount not to exceed $1,000 to be reimbursed to Logansport Community School Corporation for the installation.
Bill, are you wanting the commission to pay directly to South Bend then?
Yes.
Okay, so we need to put that in there too, along with that, so that payment will be to the South Bend school, or to the South Bend Lathe Company, along with $1,000 to
For
Logansport.
the purchase of the engine lathe and paid directly to the South Bend Lathe Company?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's cleaner myself. It shows you the paper trail of your direct.
In today's market, is this a solid price that they guarantee now? And what's the lead time, I guess? Are you going to get it this school year, next school year?
As soon as possible. This is a price of, it was 2 weeks ago, so they will guarantee the price.
But no idea on lead time.
No idea, no.
And then I think Bill had mentioned that he suggests we pull it out of the downtown district and combined district and not from the industrial park because of the connection to Logansport schools versus Lewis Cass. And so in this case, he's being sensitive to that difference there.
And Mike, I kind of want to point to, on the statute, section 7, I think it's important, section 7C, and really I guess there's a section 7CB, but must find that the program will promote the redevelopment and economic development of the unit. I just think that's important, because when you just highlight the fact that it's educational programs, I don't know that that's really clear that it really does need to be something that's focused on redevelopment, economic development, not just a general education program, because ultimately there could be all sorts of educational programs
Right.
that someone may come and request funds for. But this specifically is part of what we're doing here, because the statute and that it focuses on redevelopment, economic development. So just kind of a bit of information.
And I think that is key because, we can, to get a manufacturer to come here, you have to, we know what, there's a lot of construction going on in Kokomo with the new battery factory there or whatever. To have people that are job ready is really crucial. And I'm sure Bill, when he talks to people, it is. So really, we need to work hand in hand and dovetail. And that, as you said, that's an important point there, that we're not just giving money for education. We're getting money to try to train people to have the skills that could come be a chef at the Aero could be. Our nursing program, I know that they have 100% of the students qualify for their CNA when they're done, which means they can go right from high school into a nursing home and without any extra training. So they've actually gotten, nursing training being a high school student with no real cost to them, but they are prepared to be qualified in that area. We need that to happen in a lot more areas, whether it's culinary or whether it's building construction or whether it's manufacturing or whatever else we've got going on here. So I think your point is very relevant and important, the fact that this isn't just we're going to give money for education. We are wanting to make this an investment in future employees and laborers for people that we want either are here now or people we want to come to our community. Okay, so with the changes listed, do we have a motion to accept Resolution 2023-301 in the amount, and you want it to be $23,104.49, or you want it?
23,104.49 for the purchase and paid directly to South Bend, and then up to another $1,000 for the installation to be reimbursed directly to Logansport Community School.
Okay, so it's still 24,104.
Correct. The
Okay,
total.
same amount,
Up's
just
fine.
distributed a different
The
way.
section 1 needs amended.
Okay,
I'll make that motion.
okay, we have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Suzanne. Any further discussion?
Do you track the job placement? The reason I ask that is because of the fact, when you go to college, a lot of times you pick a college because of the job placement afterwards. You gotta 80% chance you're gonna get a job if you go to this college. You go to this college, you're gonna get 40%. So, to me, I would vote no if it wasn't gonna affect the community, meaning that, hey, this is gonna get us ready for this, because I don't know anything about it. Construction guys are, I mean, these young guys don't even know how to swing a hammer. I mean,
Right.
there's so little people to pick from. So when you do a program like this, I think that it's good for the community, because then it does put that kind of person into the community, as long as we can retain them. But what I'm saying is, if you have this, guys want to drop out of school, but it's like, okay, well, if you go to this program, you're gonna have a job when you get out of this program, and the placement of that is 100% or 90%. So it makes sense to do a program like this then, to me, to invest. Where in a lot of your schools, stuff you invest in, you don't get nothing out of it, but just money that you spend.
And we rely on employers to give us any information. And I'll be quite frank, it's been not very good. And that's, Bill, and that's was my initial initiative when I took over, is we've got to get the community involved. We've got to get employers on board in the school, working with us, putting some of their sweat equity into our programs so we can tie them to the kids. So we can do that, because you're right. And that was the big thing, is we weren't, I mean, when we talked to Steinberger, well, we don't have anybody here. Well, we need to change that, because where are you getting employees from outside of this county? So how are we going to change that? How are we going to fix it? Is it because they don't know what they're doing? Well, that might be part of it. Is it because our relationship with you is not good? Well, that's probably the biggest issue. So that's been Bill and I's big initiative, is let's go out and get as many employers as we can, get them into the facility so we can tie them to them. So kids know, hey, I don't have to leave Cass County to find a job. I can stay right here with a good employer, make a good wage, and live here. And we have had trouble with that, but we're going to change that. I just met with the hospital last week about this, and we're hoping to add another program to our CNA. So we have a CCMA. So we add basically a certified medical assistant. So we can move, because it's a need. It's a necessary part of our community, but we're not filling it. You know, and we talk about, I know we talk about going to college. This is something I'm very proud of, because this has picked up a lot. Not that we don't push anyone to go to college, but when it comes around to next school year, every single program will have dual credit attached to it. So if you choose to go get a certification, if your boss says, hey, I would like you to go get a 2-year degree, you're going to get a jump start. Okay? Every class will have 3 college credits essentially for free from Ivy Tech or Vincennes University. And we're very proud of that. Do most kids use them? Absolutely not. We want them to go get an industry, but they're there if they need them. So yeah, to answer your question, it's a big employer thing. We've tried to track by student. It doesn't work. The information you get is non-conclusive. You're going to talk to 1 out of 100 students, and they may not give you the truth. So it's more that we work with employers, say, hey, who do you have that graduated from the Century Career Center, which is going to be most of your Logan Sport students, and a good portion of your county students that are going to at least take in 1 class with us. But the goal is, hey, stay here. We've got to keep you right here.
We jump to the why aren't you not employing
Yes.
them? And that's where we got the minimum standards listed by Shepherd and Steiner, which would also work for you and other contractors of these 25 things they got to nail when they come in our door on day 1. And Matt is passionate about, he's donating about $50,000 in steel to house right outside our career center on a cement pad that we hope we get from you next month. They can work on site, not travel, because you got traveling involved, and they have block scheduling and all these things, or picking up tools, putting tools away. But if you're only there an hour, it just doesn't make any sense. So on-site, steel structures, Matt's excited. We're also videoing all their work sites and feeding it into their classroom so they can watch the police station get built and understand this is how it works. And we're going to do some site visits. We're working through some insurance things. But we're trying to partner with Ivy Tech on their pathways. We're getting there. I think we'll get there.
and then it's key. I mean, these kids should have their summers, they should be working, in construction sites or in a kitchen someplace. I mean, again, they need to see, do I like this or not? If they start doing it, I don't know, I didn't know I would sweat. I didn't think I was going to sweat. I was going to use a computer or something like that. So, I think that it's really key, because we've been fighting this for a number of years with Steinbergs and Sheplers, those guys, where you'd have 30 kids in a class and 2 kids come out in the industry. Well, we need to somehow, I think, educate parents earlier to the fact that here's some of the choices your kids have as to their pathway. And again, for the economic development of Cass County, again, if we're going to have the sucking sound to Kokomo, to this plant, we're going to lose some of our people. So then you're left with people that don't have any ambition. They need to get this ambition here and say, I want to be a welder, and so there's one of our tenants is a autistic center, and they have a location in Kokomo and in here in Logansport. They got 90 kids on their waiting list, but these kids, their employees have to have I want to say CMB, it's one of those initial things, CMBCA or certification. They've been talking to the school about how could they could do the training, but they went to school to have just use their space to train these kids, because, and these kids are starting out at, I think they start at $18 an hour once you have that certification as fresh out of high school. But they've got a waiting list. They just built a new place in Kokomo that'll hold some of the volume, but they're an offshoot from the schools. In fact, that there are some kids that are autistic that it's hard in a traditional classroom to get the job done. But these employees need to be trained, and they can't take on any new kids because they don't have people that are qualified. So, these kind of programs that can continue to just develop the economic value of our community, I think are really key. I mean, it's easy to think about building a building, but it's harder to make sure that you got the people to work it. You can have a new Wendy's, but if there's nobody to cook in the kitchen, we got problems. So, okay. So we had a motion and we had a second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of Resolution 2023-301 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay. Aaron's on deck. All right. We are now moving on to Resolution 2023-305, which is Logansport Utilities. The 6th Street project has gone on it's been on our pending thing for at least 2 years, I think.
Yeah. So at that time, we didn't do resolutions, but we did have approvals to move forward with the 6th Street decorative lighting with that project. So we're just kind of doing a resolution to make sure that it's set in stone and easy to pay that invoice that came in for $140,000.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-305.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Suzanne. Yeah, this has been on. When Dwayne came on board, we realized that for the State Board of Accounts, it's best to have resolutions, and so that basically we started this a decade ago. So anyway, all those in favor of Resolution 2023-305 signify by a sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0. Okay. Next resolution is Resolution 2023-303. It's a land acquisition.
So this is for the property, we're calling it on the banks of the Ill River, but this is where the old coal plant and water plant were. We have it in 3 tracks. Council has approved to move it on. So when we actually do the RFPs and all of that to actually develop these sites, it would come from redevelopment. So this is just Redevelopment Commission accepting that land.
Do we need to vote on that, or are we just accepting?
So the resolution you need to vote on to accept it.
All right, is there this is there a motion to accept the resolution? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion or confusion or? This is one of the things we talked about, just the land that we sometimes have, and we'll start to keep track of those. You know, this has no financial value other than its appraised value, I guess, but we're not paying anything to get it. All those in favor of motion resolution 2023-303, signify by sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0. All right, next is resolution 2023-302. And I guess this is still Aaron.
Okay. I have 4 things today. So this is Crossroads, or sorry, HWC has been working on the survey at that location. I had sat down with Logansport Utilities and wanted to map out, because it's always been owned by them, they don't currently have easements for any of the utilities underground or overhead. After sitting down, when I initially did the contract, we thought there might be a couple easements. Well, there ended up being a lot of easements. Most of them are in areas that are aligning the property or in areas that's not going to be developed by a building. So they're going to be fine in development-wise, but we need to make sure those easements are there so they can maintain that. When talking to HWC, that and basically detailing the topography a little bit more so that we can develop drainage and all of that. The additional cost of everything that they've been working on is $12,500. So I'm just trying to get that ordered so they can finalize all of that and we can move forward.
The information on that is the page behind your resolution. It's got the details from HWC, also has a map of what they.
So you can see all the easements there.
Right.
I had said there might be 2 from the projects that I knew they were going to be doing, and then it ended up being 7 or 8. So, and they'll do legals for each one of those.
Good thing you checked it out, though.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion, we accept resolution 2023-302, amount of $12,500 for HWC Engineering. That's the name. Is there a second?
Second.
Suzanne? You're my second woman. Okay, any further discussion on that?
These easements, you're not gonna be able to build on top of them?
No, there'll be utility easements. There's one that is a utility that serves the houses that are there. So if those houses are removed, then that easement can be removed. But most of it is going to be to the very west side where they have a lot of piping, and then where currently there's a parking lot being proposed, which is fine to build the parking lot over top, but they wouldn't actually be able to have a building built there.
Yeah, I'm not seeing this map that you're talking about.
I didn't have a map either.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
I guess I just didn't turn in half.
I must have got my pages all mixed up then.
Yeah. So, this is their new project. See, most of it's over here, or aligning the street. And then, this is kind of, the big easements are right here. But that's currently a parking lot proposed.
Okay, so this is,
So these are already in right of way. This is in right of way, this is in right of way. This will be new easements here. This will be a new easement. This is what serves these houses. So as soon as, if those houses would ever go, that can be removed.
There it is.
Okay.
Okay.
And
There
then
it is.
this is all with everything they have going on, they have to keep that. But it's not all in right of way, so they need to do these easements here.
Okay,
But there's still all of this room to do
was gonna
stuff,
say,
all of this room to
okay.
do stuff, all this room to do
okay.
And it is important, because I know I've been working with Aaron. I bought a property in Walton that basically had utilities, even a street, but it was never, it just wasn't there. It was basically half the street was my property, so I'm working on trying to get that
So you
fixed.
charge them back for that?
Well, it's, well, the sad thing is I already got a grant and I had it repaid, so, but when I went to build, all of a sudden the property line, it's like half the street's mine. It's like getting it fixed, but it's a process.
So we're trying to do that before.
Yes.
Right.
Excellent, excellent.
Well, I mean, when this project started, we assumed it had all been surveyed, and it hadn't. The city property had never been surveyed, and I think they had the same thing at Riverside Park when they tried to get some grant money. It had never been surveyed in all these years. Just never know. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of Resolution 2023-302 in the amount of $12,500 signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0. Okay. Next, still Aaron. Resolution 2023-304, city to RDC for Jefferson School property.
Yeah, so the old Jefferson School property that's between Grover and Tangy, along, it's 401 Tangy is the address. It was given from the schools. Part of the school's requirements is they have to give it to the city. But as we know, as we develop and redevelop these sites, we give it to redevelopment to then be able to do all of that. So basically, this is, again, council approved to move it on to Redevelopment Commission. You're just accepting that gift.
How many parcels is that?
It's actually 8 parcels, but as it's shown, they're combined, so it's 2 parcels right now. For tax purposes, anyway.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-304.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of Resolution 2023-304 signify by a sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we move on to Resolution 2023-306, and Bill comes up to bat.
I need a quick amendment before I
Okay?
forget. On the resolution you approve, 2023-301, I have a mistake on that resolution that you just approved. The South Bend Lathe Company is the actual machine. The place that's going to invoice us is a different company name.
Okay.
It's called Grizzly, Grizzly Industrial, Inc. I'm going to email you the invoice.
Okay.
So if we could get that amended.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to make an amendment to Resolution 2023-301 to change the name of the payment we made to Grizzly Incorporated instead of South Bend Lathe
Industrial.
Industrial. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the amendment to change 2023-301 to change the vendor name signify by sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0. Okay. Now, we're on 2023-306.
Okay. As you recall, RDC approved that you signed the purchase agreement with the seller of the Davis and Chase Road property. With that, we have 120 days due diligence, which is April 15th, 2023 is the deadline unless we get that extended. There's 3 areas that we feel is important to due diligence on is to 100% make sure that it can be annexed. Wouldn't do much good for the city to buy land and then you can't do anything with it. Soil testing to make sure it's buildable, and then some utility layout of what can and cannot be done out there. So there's other things, but those are the three main areas. The area I'm here today is, which I think is the biggest piece, is the annexation piece. So I had some Zoom calls with Bose McKinney and Evans and Baker Tilly. And basically, verbally, there's no issues. But I want more than a verbal commitment when I'm going to be asking your group to spend a lot of money. So they're going to be putting together the voluntary annexation paperwork, the resolutions, how it works, and then give an opinion on the fact that it's no problem, because it's a 5 to 6 month process, and we'll have to buy it before then. So they're going to give their opinion of that's no problem. Along with that, when you do an annexation, you also have to have a fiscal plan, and that's where Baker Tilly is going to provide the fiscal plan for that area. Now, the fiscal plan doesn't mandate you have to do all this infrastructure. You just have to provide the plan. So when we do find a developer, they know what that plan is as far as the build out. So those two items are not free, as you can tell. They both gave me a number not to exceed. Bose McKinney was 15,000 and Baker Tilly was 5,000. So I drafted the resolution to indicate both of those things. I would rather you spend 20,000 and we find out something we don't want to find out 6 months after you buy the property.
I've got a question, Bill.
Sure.
And this has to go more for a future question on where we're taking these funds from. But in our budget, we've got so we've got housing in our budget, and we've got housing expenses that come from the industrial park, that come from the downtown district and the consolidated district. In the budget, there's different allocations for line items. One of those is site analysis, 225,000. One's survey work for 10,000, one's appraisals for 15,000, and then one's for RFPs and deed transfers of 20,000. Where would this fit in? Site analysis?
Site analysis.
Okay. And I just mentioned that because we might want to take a portion from each of those districts then, and note that in this resolution, if that's how we want to do it, unless we want to say it's all coming from consolidated, which is how it's set up. We have $124,000 budgeted there, so that's fine too. But I just wanted to understand where it was going to be paid from, and if it was site analysis or something.
I would say, since that area is not in a specific district, then it should be distributed
Okay.
throughout, and I would say in the site analysis bucket.
Okay.
Not the tricky part, but the part that's we're also having to lean on is when RDC purchases land that's not already in the city, it brings on another layer of stuff. So Bose McKinney will be laying out the processes to get there. And one of them will be a resolution first to city council, basically getting their blessing that they want it annexed and they understand it will be annexed. It's not currently annexed, but that gets us over the situation of you would be looking to buy something that's not in your designated area, but it will be. So.
And my understanding is that Logansport Utilities also is to provide utilities to that.
There are utilities nearby. What we're working on our due diligence is getting with them to determine what does that mean, because money is money, so.
Police and fire.
Right,
Yes.
right,
Correct.
right. Yeah, it changes a few things. Okay, so I will make a motion to accept Resolution 2023-306 with the amounts of $15,000 for Bose McKinney and $5,000 for Baker Tilly. And we want it to come completely out of the new combined, what's it called? Not called combined, what's it called? Consolidated, yeah. The new consolidated TIF district. Is that what you do, John Michael, or do you want to?
Would you,
I would say equal distribution. We can't pinpoint exactly what area needs housing more. I think it's across the mass that we hear that housing's needed. So I would say we would take the distributions based on the balance percentage.
Yeah, and so that would be, if we're just taking it based on the budget to available funds, compared to the total available funds, it would be 55% from the consolidated.
55?
55% from consolidated, 25% from the downtown, and 20% from industrial.
Okay.
Yep.
What's our plan when we get Salai and Junction going? I mean, they're about small amounts.
Right.
Because, you know, they get 15,000 or something like that. Are we intending that they would share on some of these kind of things too, or do we want to keep focusing their money on that?
Budget any funds.
I would say not to distribute, because that's kind of our reserve per se of Lexington Village if the
Right.
payments can't be met by its own
Right.
property tax. So I would, until it starts to build to a number, because we'll have some, I think we're going to have needs just based on the increased traffic and commerce that we're going to produce up there. So I would like to kind of keep those.
I agree. No, I don't disagree.
And in the way we structured these development purchase bonds, there's not a risk to your group if the assessments don't come out to where we think. It's just, you're going to get 25% of whatever that number is. So it may never get to 279 for the mall. It may get to 239. Who knows what it'll become?
Right.
You may get less than what we project.
Well, I mean, I presume as it builds out, you know, there's probably more property taxes for I mean, I don't know if there's HVAC units on every building, every parcel up there now, but it'll become, you know, so over time, then it's going to be a year behind when you get the value.
I think it'll get close. I just don't know. That was our county assessor's guesstimate based on the plans that we had for the build-out.
Okay.
So we gave her the plans, we gave her the numbers, and she projected it'll be X.
Okay.
She's the one that sets it, so hopefully it'll be close.
Okay. All right, to circle back, I had started making a motion for resolution 2023-306, $15,000 towards Bose McKinney and Evans, and $5,000 to Baker Tilly, and it'll be broken down by the TIF districts of 55% for the consolidated, 25% downtown, and 20% at the industrial park. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, 2023-307. At our last meeting, we started to discuss this, and we never actually approved the motion. We didn't have, I don't think we had a resolution at that time, and we had a bill, though, this is for the work that they did with Ethan Manning and the purchase agreement for the Chase and Davis property. So when we came up for air, we realized we did not vote for it, even though we still owe the $200 to Michael and Stevenson. So anyway, this resolution 2023-307 for $200 is back from really last month, finishing what we had started to say, okay, we need to pay $200 to Michael and Stevenson. I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2023-307 in the amount of $200 to be paid to Michael and Stevenson, and coming from the, we just picked the industrial park fund. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by a sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, resolution 2023-308. What is this? Okay, yeah, this is, we've now started to get some stuff off the bonds that are being used. And this is, the first one here is for, and there's copies in here of Security Federal behind that. $1,000 for the annual registrar and paying agent fee, and there's $15,000 in bond interest. Now, this will come out of the bond fund, which we don't currently have in our financial statements. We'll have that next month. So this is not really.
It's been established though, so you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
it,
it's
you
there,
just
it's
don't
there.
have it from last month.
Right, right. So next month, we'll see an additional, more spreadsheets for this item. But we have the accounts that are set up, and that's what Dwayne was talking about, having 4 different funds, one's for interest, or one's for, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so I will make a motion to accept and approve Resolution 2023-308 for the $1,000 for both of these going to Security Federal, $1,000 going from Fund 4477, and $15,053.39 going from Fund 4478 to Security Federal. Is there a second? Suzanne?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We'll get more of this kind of stuff going on, but this is, it's a little confusing now since it's all new. All right, all those in favor signify by a sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 4-0.
Just to remind the group, we closed the bond, we have capitalized interest. That'll make these payments until 2026, which is when our hopes are that the real tax revenue will pay the payments. So
Right.
every time Security Federal bills these interest payments, so they come from that same account, pay for the capitalized interest that we already have paying
Right.
until 2026.
Right. And right now, they're got the infrastructure guys are doing their thing, and so we hope to have that start as soon as the snow breaks. I think they're looking to hopefully get the infrastructure maybe done by October or November, so I mean,
Until this construction.
yeah. So it's going to be difficult to break ground on a house this year, but we'll see. We'll pray for a miracle. Okay, moving on to Resolution 2023-309. This is another bond issue. This is from Security Federal, the amount of $1,500, the annual trustee fee. And this is for the hotel project, the Salai project, on their bond. Same kind of thing as before. We'll make a resolution for Resolution 2023-309, in the amount of $1,500 to be drawn from the industrial park, number 4448, and paid to Security Federal for the Salai Hotel bond, and this is again for the annual trustee fee.
And it's this fund, it's using the industrial park fund because,
Because we don't have,
There's no money
There's no-
There's no money in the
that,
hotel yet.
that bond fund yet, or
Yeah.
within that district yet to draw from. So I talked to Andy about this yesterday, and we said we could draw from another fund and just pay it out of one of the other districts.
You'll get a distribution from that area in June, as we mentioned in the presentation. If you wanted to, in June, you just go back and
Pay it back.
why not? I mean, I know it's not a huge amount of money, but if we could,
Okay.
and there's funds available, it seems to make sense.
So as part of this resolution, we will, when we receive our property tax payment for the Salai TIF district, we will pay back $1,500 to the industrial park fund.
Second.
And remember that.
You'll put it on your
Hey,
sheet.
Dwayne, make a note of that, would you?
You'll put it on your sheet, right?
Put my sheet, it's about this thick. What were we going to do in June? What was that? Okay, all those, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay. We have one more item that is not on our agenda, and this is Resolution 2022-310, which I don't think you have, I don't think you have copies of it. This came as kind of a last-minute thing. This is some land that is across from the new police station, and the city has asked us to fund this because the auction is tomorrow or something like that.
Yeah, it's across from the fire.
Oh, fire station.
7th and Rick.
Oh, okay, all right. Police, fire, it's different. So anyway, I don't know, you want to say more, say anything more about it, Jacob? Okay.
So why do we want to buy it?
I hope he's going to tell us.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell us why we want to buy it?
Well, the city owns the property right next to it. So there are 3 parcels that basically make up one decent lot. The city owns the one on the corner of 7th and Race right now. The other 2 are in the commissioner's sale tomorrow. They have a minimum bid of $75. So hopefully, we can get it for a decent price. I think we have to prepare for the fact that there may be other interested parties. But I think with everything that we have going on down there and hopefully in the future, and just general economic development, it'd be good to consolidate all of that, and potentially it could be retail or a nice home for somebody there. And I think best case scenario is that the city can get control of that, or the Redevelopment Commission, and then we could potentially transfer over that other piece of property and get it back into some type of useful state.
The lots aren't big enough for a building now, correct? Individually? You should-
So say it would be
Yeah.
very difficult if you bought both of them.
Setbacks and that.
Yeah.
The resolution has a, but not to exceed amount of money.
Yeah.
I mean, is there some point you don't want to buy the property, or is
I mean,
it?
the assessed value, we looked, the assessed value combined of the 2 was 2,800. So I would say maybe just.
Not to exceed 5,000, or?
Yeah, I'll leave that up to you guys a little bit, because I think the intent would be that you'll end up controlling the entire piece of property. We'll have to go to the city council and do all this land transfer again. But I think it would be good, especially with the location there. I think it would give us some options on, further development as we try to do some stuff along that riverfront there.
Who actually shows up at the commissioner sale? Is that you?
I guess it is going to be me, yes.
I guess my question is, if I'm the property owner that's behind it and I'm trying to buy it, does that mean you step away, thought, well, okay, or is
I think at a point where we would get outbid as a city past whatever our not to exceed is that we decide upon today, then whoever purchased it, we could very easily work with them for the other parcel that we own and try to get all of it back into use. It doesn't make sense for the city just to own that one little corner piece, because it's not really useful for anything other than adding to our mowing bill. So yes, if somebody has a good proposal for it, on the private side, and they're willing to pay for it and then work with the city on our piece, it would make perfect sense. But just to kind of protect ourselves and protect the property that we have there, I think it would make sense for us to control it and then go out and find proposals for what to do with it through the Redevelopment Commission.
So it's this full lot here, but we only own the front half, and the back half is for sale.
oh, yeah, too small.
Yeah.
Did you guys see it? So we own this, but these are the 2 that are for sale.
Oh, okay.
Who owns it now? I mean, I know the county, but who did own it?
Actually passed away
He's been
years
passed,
ago,
yeah.
but no one paid property taxes on
And it's been one of those where I think it's come up on the tax sale, but it had so much on the back taxes that it didn't make sense for anybody to purchase. Now that it's on a commissioner's sale and that can be waived, now it makes sense for us to get a hold of. Dave, was our property there ever on the list that the city was trying to sell? Do you remember?
That little lot as far as.
Yeah.
So we may have had it in the last.
Yeah, I think we've tried to offer the part that we own for sale before.
Just
and
so small that nobody.
had no real interest on it. We just keep paying to mow it every year. So if we can get all of it consolidated, then we can finally maybe do something with it.
No, correct my memory. So once you buy the commissioner sale, how long do you have to actually own it before you can sell it? Is it a set time?
it.
It used to be. I didn't know if it still is or not.
I think that's what it is. I'd have to verify that.
Because there's a right of the prior owner? to come back and purchase it? In this case, the prior owner's
I-
deceased,
Yeah, I think so.
like it'd be their estate or something? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's typically with the tax sale. I don't know, with the commissioner's sale, do they let you come back on it, or is it just?
Do you have to quiet the title on a commissioner sale? Is that a attorney question?
Well, you still have to go to court to actually get the deed for it, so yeah, I mean, in general terms, yeah. But,
You just get like a form, don't you, that says you acquired it.
yeah, but it's still
and
a
that tells
court,
you
like,
that they have, I think it's 9 months to come back.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that, you know, being the town owns that, I'd say, yeah, a couple $1,000s is a small price to pay to make it a nice lot, if that's what the assessed value. I mean, that's,
I
And
hate to
it
even
makes
ask
that other
this,
The
but
property you already have, it makes it a more value for that too, so.
Yeah.
I hate to ask this, but do you have to get appraisals or anything for?
No, not under the threshold, and actually not at auction.
Oh, God, okay, good.
So auctions are different.
They're the bane of my existence.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't want us, I don't think we'd want to approve anything over the assessed value up to that $2,800, but that's my opinion.
Unless it's Jason Davis, and then,
Yeah, then it's different. But that's 60 acres. This is 600 feet.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, the 2,800, or if you want to make it 3,000,
3,000.
to make it even.
I mean, it doesn't really matter, I mean, you get to make a snap judgment as whether if it's got value, so I mean, we can either make it 3 or 5 or 10, or, I mean, what, you know, whatever you're, I mean, I don't
Yeah,
think.
it'll make it easy
$1,000.
for me not to have to make a snap judgment at an auction with public funds if maybe we kept it to 3,000. And if somebody comes in that really wants to do something with it and wants to bid more, then I would love to work with them on.
We could sell ours and.
Exactly.
All right.
Hey, Mike, I don't remember when I wrote that, because I wrote it so fast.
What's that?
Does that have in the resolution who's approved to purchase for you guys, acting as your agent? So in other words, are you is Jacob gonna be the person buying it, or is somebody else? That's,
One of you guys wants to go to the auction, I will be more than happy to let you.
yeah, because I feel like we ought to specify who's approved to
Yeah.
actually do the purchase for the expenditure of the $3,000 or whatever. And I didn't think about that when I was putting that.
I don't want to
together.
put any pressure on you, but I did it for the town, and I got it for the $25. I just want to let you know that.
And now you're gonna have people come and bid me up. It's gonna happen.
I might come just to see, make sure you don't say 3,000 right off the bat.
It'd still be the cheapest thing that RDC ever buys. All right, so I will go back and make a motion for resolution 2023-310 to purchase a property at the property in question for not to exceed $3,000. We would like to select Jacob Pomisol as our agent to negotiate this transaction, and it'll come from the downtown TIF number 4445.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by a sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Carries going since 3-0. Okay. All right. That, my gosh, are we done?
Public comment.
Any updates from Aaron or Bill? You guys are out? You're out of hot air?
Next time.
Save it. All right. No other information. We'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, you too. Yeah, it's, always interesting, that's for sure.
It is. It's been a fun couple of years.
Well, and it's just, I talked to Mike, it's like when I first got on, elected town council,